There are moments in life when your heart becomes heavy. You pray, but nothing changes. You wait, but the answer does not come. You try to stay strong, but inside you are exhausted. And in those silent battles, fear begins to whisper, what if things never get better? What if this pain never ends? What if I lose what I love? But listen carefully. Not every delay is a punishment. Not every closed door is rejection. Sometimes Allah is protecting you in ways you cannot yet understand. You see the present. Allah sees the future. You see the pain, Allah sees the purpose. You see the waiting, Allah sees the perfect timing. That is why faith means trusting even when you cannot see the full picture. Some of the greatest blessings arrive after the hardest seasons. Some prayers are answered in ways you never expected, and some heartbreaks are actually divine redirections leading you towards something far better. So stop carrying the weight of tomorrow on your shoulders. You were never created to control everything. You were created to trust the one who controls everything. Allah did not ask you to know the future. He asked you to rely on Him. And perhaps that thing you are crying over today is the very thing Allah is saving you from. Perhaps the delay is preparing your heart. Perhaps the struggle is building your strength. Perhaps the loneliness is bringing you closer to Him. Perhaps the test is teaching you dependence on Allah instead of dependence on people. Because sometimes Allah removes every distraction so you finally turn back to Him completely. And when you place your trust in Allah, something beautiful happens inside you. The fear begins to soften, the anxiety begins to weaken, the heart slowly finds peace. Not because life suddenly became perfect, because you realize Allah is enough. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail, life will change without warning, but Allah never abandons the believer who calls upon Him sincerely. Even when you cannot trace His plan, you can trust His wisdom. Think about all the times you survived things you once thought would destroy you. The nights you cried yourself to sleep, the heartbreaks you thought would never heal, the fears that consumed your mind, yet Allah carried you through all of it. You are still here, still breathing, still standing, still being guided by His mercy. So why do you think He will leave you now? The problem is not always that Allah is silent. Sometimes we are too overwhelmed by fear to notice His signs. Every sunrise is a sign. Every answered prayer is a sign. Every hardship you survived is a sign. Every moment of peace after pain is a sign. Allah has been taking care of you your entire life, even in the moments you felt forgotten. So do not let negative thoughts convince you that your story is over. Allah can change your situation overnight. One prayer can open doors no human being can close. One moment of mercy can heal years of sadness. One decree from Allah can transform your entire life. Never underestimate what Allah can do. What is impossible for people is easy for Him. So breathe, slow down your racing heart. And remember this deeply, if Allah is making you wait, then He knows the timing is not right yet. If Allah closed a door, then He knows what was behind it. If Allah tested you, then He also gave you the strength to survive it. Your job is not to carry the world. Your job is to trust the one who carries you through the world. Keep praying, keep believing, keep making dua even when the answer feels delayed. Keep smiling even during hardship. Keep walking toward Allah even with a tired heart, because no tear goes unseen by Him. No prayer goes unheard, no pain is wasted, and one day you will understand why Allah made you wait. One day the confusion will make sense. One day the pain will become wisdom. One day you will look back and realize Allah was protecting you all along. So tonight, leave your worries with Allah, not because life is easy, but because Allah is greater than every difficulty you face. Trust Him when things make sense. Trust Him when they do not. Trust Him in moments of peace. Trust Him in moments of pain. Because the heart that relies on Allah will never truly break. And remember, Allah is already working on the things you are crying about today. One of the hardest things for the human heart is waiting. We make dua with tears in our eyes. We ask Allah for relief, for healing, for love, for success, for peace. And when the answer does not come immediately, the heart begins to panic. Why is Allah making me wait? Did Allah forget me? Why are others receiving what I prayed for? But this is where faith is truly tested. Because trusting Allah is easy when everything is going your way. The real test of trust is believing in Him when life becomes unclear. Sometimes Allah delays something not because He wants to hurt you, but because He wants to protect you. You may be asking for something your heart desperately wants, while Allah sees the pain hidden behind it. You may be running toward a door that looks beautiful, while Allah sees the disaster waiting behind that door. And out of His mercy, He stops you. But because we only see the present moment, we mistake protection for rejection. A child cries when a parent takes away something dangerous because the child does not understand. In the same way, we cry over things Allah removes because we cannot yet see the wisdom behind His decision. Allah sees what you do not see. He knows what your future holds. He knows who is sincere and who is fake. He knows which opportunity will destroy your peace and which delay will save your soul. And sometimes the very thing you are begging for today would have broken you tomorrow. That is why delays are not always punishments. Sometimes they are acts of divine mercy. There are blessings that require preparation. Perhaps Allah is preparing your heart before giving you what you asked for. Perhaps He is building your patience, your strength, your dependence on Him, because if He gave you everything instantly, maybe you would forget Him. Maybe your heart would become attached to the blessing instead of the one who gave it. So Allah makes you wait, not to torture you, but to deepen your connection with Him. Waiting teaches sincerity, waiting teaches humility. Waiting teaches you that your entire life is in Allah's control, and there is beauty in that realization because when you finally understand that Allah's timing is perfect, your heart begins to relax. You stop comparing your journey to others. You stop becoming bitter over unanswered prayers. You stop forcing doors open that Allah already closed. Instead, you begin saying, Ya Allah, if this is good for me, bring it closer, and if it is harmful for me, remove it from my heart. That is true trust. Not demanding your own timing from Allah, but accepting that His wisdom is greater than your understanding. Remember this deeply. Allah is never late. Human beings are late. Opportunities are late. People are late. But Allah's plan arrives exactly when it is supposed to. There are moments in your life that will only make sense later. One day you will look back and thank Allah for the doors He closed. You will thank Him for the relationships that ended. You will thank Him for the delays that once broke your heart. Because you will finally realize that what you thought was rejection was actually protection. And perhaps if Allah answered every prayer exactly when you wanted, your life would have fallen apart in ways you cannot imagine. So when your heart becomes impatient, remind yourself. Allah hears every dua, every tear is seen by Him, every moment of waiting has meaning, your prayer is not being ignored. Allah is either preparing the blessing, preparing you for the blessing, or protecting you from something your heart cannot yet understand. So keep praying. Keep trusting. Keep believing even when the answer feels delayed, because sometimes Allah's greatest mercy is not giving you what you want immediately. Sometimes His greatest mercy is making you wait. One of the biggest reasons people lose their peace is because they are trying to control everything. They want to control the future, control people's opinions, control outcomes, control timing, control every detail of life. And when life does not go according to their plans, anxiety slowly takes over the heart. But the truth is this: you were never created to carry the weight of the entire world on your shoulders. Only Allah controls everything. The moment you forget this, your heart becomes exhausted, trying to manage things that were never in your hands to begin with. That is why so many people live in constant fear. They overthink every situation. They replay conversations in their minds. They worry about tomorrow before tomorrow even arrives. But worrying does not change destiny. Stress does not control outcomes. Fear does not create solutions. It only steals your peace. And this is exactly why trusting Allah is so powerful, because reliance on Allah frees the heart from unhealthy attachment to control. When you truly trust Allah, you stop believing that everything depends on you alone. You begin to understand that no matter how carefully you plan, Allah's decree will always prevail. And that should not scare you, it should comfort you. Because Allah's wisdom is greater than your understanding. Think about how limited human knowledge is. You may want something desperately today, only to realize years later it would have destroyed your peace. You may fear a hardship today, only to discover later it became the reason you grew stronger, wiser, and closer to Allah. What feels like chaos to you is often part of a perfect divine plan. But human beings struggle with surrender. We want immediate answers, immediate results, immediate certainty. Yet Allah teaches us through life that certainty does not come from controlling everything. It comes from trusting the one who controls everything. There is a huge difference between responsibility and control. Islam teaches us to make effort. Work hard, make dua. Take halal means. Be responsible. But after doing your part, you must leave the results to Allah. That is where peace begins. Because once you have done your best, constantly worrying changes nothing. If Allah has written something for you, no one can stop it. And if Allah has not written it for you, no amount of force will make it happen. So why destroy your mental peace trying to carry what belongs to Allah alone? Sometimes people become emotionally broken because they are fighting battles Allah never asked them to fight. They are trying to control hearts, trying to control timing, trying to force doors open that Allah closed, and every forced door eventually brings pain. What is meant for you will arrive without destroying your soul. What Allah has written for you will not miss you. This is why tawakkul, trust in Allah, is one of the greatest gifts a believer can have. Tawakkul does not mean doing nothing. It means doing your best while knowing Allah is the ultimate planner. It means sleeping peacefully after making dua, because you know your life is in safe hands. Imagine how much lighter your heart would feel if you truly believed this. You do not have to solve every problem overnight. You do not have to know every answer. You do not have to control every outcome. Allah is already managing what is beyond your understanding. Even now, while you are stressing about your future, Allah is arranging things behind the scenes in ways you cannot see. Perhaps the delay is protecting you. Perhaps the hardship is redirecting you. Perhaps the closed door is saving you from future regret. And perhaps the peace you are searching for will only come when you stop trying to control everything and finally surrender your worries to Allah, because the heart was never designed to carry divine responsibilities. That burden belongs to Allah alone. So breathe. Do your best. Pray sincerely, and then let go. Leave the outcome to Allah, because when you stop trying to control everything, you finally make space for peace to enter your heart. Sometimes life hurts in ways words cannot explain. There are pains that silently change a person. The heartbreak nobody saw, the nights filled with tears, the disappointment that crushed your spirit, the loneliness that made you question your worth. And in those moments, the human heart naturally asks, why is this happening to me? Why would Allah allow this pain? What is the purpose of all this suffering? But one of the deepest lessons faith teaches us is this. Not every hardship is meant to destroy you. Some hardships are sent to transform you. Allah does not waste pain. Every difficulty carries wisdom. Even if you cannot immediately see it, sometimes hardship wakes up a heart that became distant from Allah. Sometimes pain removes arrogance and softens the soul. Sometimes loss teaches you that nothing in this dunya is permanent. And sometimes trials reveal strengths inside you that comfort never could. There are parts of your character that only hardship can build. Patience is not built during easy days. Strength is not created when life is comfortable. Trust in Allah is not developed when everything goes exactly the way you want. The strongest believers are often those who survive the hardest battles, because pain changes people. It teaches you who truly cares about you. It teaches you how temporary this world really is. It teaches you not to place your happiness entirely in people, money, or worldly success. Most importantly, hardship reminds you of your need for Allah. Sometimes Allah allows the world to disappoint you so you stop depending on the world for peace. And this is difficult for the ego to accept. We often think blessings only come in beautiful forms, but some of Allah's greatest mercies arrive disguised as trials. A closed door can be mercy. A painful ending can be mercy. A delayed answer can be mercy. Because Allah sees what you cannot see. Perhaps the relationship you cried over would have destroyed your peace later. Perhaps the opportunity you lost would have pulled you away from Allah. Perhaps the hardship you hate today is protecting you from a greater pain tomorrow. Human beings judge moments. Allah sees the entire story. That is why faith means trusting Allah even when life feels confusing. Look back at your own life for a moment. There were probably situations you once begged Allah for that never happened. At the time, you felt devastated. But later, you realized Allah was protecting you, and there were hardships you thought would break you forever, yet somehow they made you stronger, wiser, and more connected to Allah. This is the hidden wisdom behind trials. Hardship often carries lessons comfort could never teach. A person who has suffered deeply usually develops greater compassion. A person who has cried in tahajjud understands dependence on Allah differently. A person who has lost everything learns that Allah alone is enough. And perhaps that is why some of the most beautiful souls are those who endured the greatest pain, because suffering has a way of purifying the heart when it brings you closer to Allah. But this does not mean pain is easy. Islam does not teach us to pretend suffering feels good. Even the prophets cried. Even the strongest believers felt sadness. What matters is not whether you feel pain. What matters is where your pain leads you. Does it push you toward hopelessness, or does it push you closer to Allah? Because every hardship can either distance you from Allah or deepen your relationship with Him. And sometimes the very moment you feel abandoned by the world becomes the moment Allah brings you nearest to Him. So do not think your suffering is meaningless. Allah sees every silent tear, every sleepless night, every hidden struggle nobody knows about. Nothing is ignored by Him. And one day, perhaps not immediately, but one day the wisdom behind your hardship will become clear. One day you will realize the trial that almost broke you was actually building you, building your patience, building your faith, building your strength, building the version of you that could survive storms without losing trust in Allah. So when hardship enters your life, remind yourself gently, there is wisdom here, even if I cannot yet see it, because Allah never allows pain without purpose. Sometimes the human heart forgets. It forgets how many times Allah saved it, how many storms He carried it through, how many silent prayers He answered without anyone even knowing. When you are in the middle of pain, it is easy to feel abandoned. Fear becomes louder than faith. The future feels uncertain, and your mind convinces you that this hardship might finally destroy you. But pause for a moment and look back at your life carefully. There were nights you thought you would never recover from, moments you believed your heart would never heal again, situations that made you feel trapped, broken, and emotionally exhausted. Yet somehow, you survived all of them, not because you were strong on your own, but because Allah carried you through what you could never have survived alone. Think about the times you cried in silence while nobody understood your pain. The moments you smiled in front of people while your heart was falling apart inside. The seasons where you felt emotionally numb and spiritually drained. Allah saw every second of it. Even when nobody checked on you, Allah was there. Even when people walked away, Allah remained. Even when you felt forgotten, Allah was still writing mercy into your story. And this is something the believer must never forget. Allah has never abandoned you. There were blessings you did not even notice, protection you never saw, disasters Allah prevented without your knowledge. Sometimes we only focus on what Allah did not give us while forgetting everything He already gave us. The ability to wake up every morning, the strength to survive heartbreak, the moments of peace after hardship, the opportunities that arrived unexpectedly. The healing that slowly entered your heart over time. All of this was Allah carrying you. Human beings often underestimate how much they have already survived. You may look at yourself today and only see weakness. But the fact that you are still standing after everything you endured is proof that Allah has been helping you all along. There are people who lost their way after one hardship, yet Allah kept guiding you back to Him repeatedly. Even your ability to still make dua after disappointment is a mercy from Allah, because some people become so consumed by pain that they stop turning to Him completely. But the believer keeps returning, even with tears, even with confusion, even with a tired heart. And Allah loves that sincerity. Never think your struggles go unnoticed by your Creator. Every tear matters to Allah. Every moment of patience matters. Every act of worship during hardship matters. The world may overlook your pain, but Allah never does. Sometimes Allah allows you to go through difficult seasons so you realize how dependent you truly are on Him. Because during easy days, people often rely on themselves. They trust their plans, their strength, their money, or other people. But hardship humbles the soul. It reminds you that no one can truly hold your heart together except Allah. And perhaps that is why some people become closest to Allah during their darkest moments, because pain strips away illusions. It teaches you that Allah is the only constant in a constantly changing world. People change, situations change, life changes overnight, but Allah's mercy never changes. The same Allah who helped you survive yesterday's pain will help you survive today's struggle too. So when fear enters your heart, remind yourself of everything Allah already brought you through. You survived losses you thought would crush you. You survived sadness you thought would never end. You survived moments where you had absolutely no idea how things would get better. Yet Allah opened doors. Allah sent relief. Allah gave you strength at the exact moment you needed it. And He can do it again. The believer's hope comes from remembering Allah's past mercy. If Allah carried you through every previous storm, why would He abandon you now? He won't. So stop measuring your future based on your current fear. Instead, measure it based on Allah's endless mercy, because the same Allah who protected you before is still protecting you now, even in ways you cannot yet see. One of the greatest blessings a person can experience is inner peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from money, not the peace that depends on people treating you perfectly, not the temporary happiness created by worldly success, but a deeper peace. A calmness inside the heart, even when life feels uncertain. And that kind of peace only comes from trusting Allah. The world today is full of anxiety. People are constantly worried about the future. They fear losing relationships, losing opportunities, losing control, losing stability. Their minds never rest because their hearts are attached to things that constantly change. But when your heart becomes attached to Allah instead of the dunya, something begins to shift inside you. You stop expecting perfection from life. You stop depending entirely on people for happiness, and you stop believing your peace depends on everything going exactly your way, because you realize if Allah is with you, you can survive anything. This is the power of Tawakkul, complete trust in Allah. Trusting Allah does not mean life suddenly becomes easy. It does not mean you never cry, never struggle, or never feel pain. It means that even during hardship, your heart remains anchored in faith. You know that Allah is in control. You know that nothing happens without His permission, and you know that whatever He allows into your life carries wisdom, even if you do not fully understand it yet. That belief changes the way you carry pain. Without trust in Allah, hardship feels meaningless. Every delay feels unbearable, every disappointment feels like the end of the world, but with trust in Allah, even painful moments become easier to survive because you know your suffering is not random. There is purpose behind it, mercy behind it, wisdom behind it. And that understanding gives the heart peace. Many people search for peace in temporary things. They think peace will come when they finally get married, when they become wealthy, when life becomes easier, when people finally appreciate them. But even people who have all these things can still feel empty inside, because peace is not created by perfect circumstances. Peace is created by closeness to Allah. A heart distant from Allah will remain restless, no matter how much worldly success it gains. And a heart close to Allah can remain peaceful even during storms. Look at the lives of the prophets. They faced immense hardship, loss, betrayal, rejection, loneliness, poverty. Yet they had a tranquility the world could not understand because their hearts relied completely on Allah. That is why real peace is spiritual before it is emotional. The believer finds comfort in knowing that Allah is managing every detail of life, even when things seem delayed. Even when the future feels unclear, even when prayers are not answered immediately, the believer says, Allah knows what I do not know. And those words calm the heart because uncertainty becomes less frightening when you trust the one who controls the future. Think about how exhausting it is to constantly overthink everything, trying to predict outcomes, trying to control people, trying to guarantee a future that only Allah knows. This constant need for control destroys inner peace, but surrendering to Allah frees the soul. You begin to understand that your responsibility is effort, not controlling results. Your responsibility is to pray, work hard, stay sincere, and trust Allah with the outcome. That trust removes a huge burden from the heart. Because once you truly believe Allah's plan is better than your own, you stop panicking over every delay and disappointment. You begin to accept that what misses you was never meant for you, and what is written for you will reach you at the perfect time. That mindset creates emotional stability, not because life is perfect, but because faith becomes stronger than fear. And perhaps this is one of the greatest gifts Allah gives the believer, a peaceful heart in a chaotic world. So when anxiety overwhelms you, return to Allah. Pray sincerely, speak to Him honestly, plead your worries before Him, because no heart that truly relies on Allah remains empty for long. The world may not always give you peace, people may not always understand you, life may still test you. But when your heart trusts Allah completely, you carry within yourself a peace that no hardship can fully destroy. No matter how dark your life feels right now, never believe that your situation is permanent. One of the greatest mistakes people make is assuming that the pain they feel today will last forever. When someone struggles for a long time, hopelessness slowly enters the heart. They begin to think, nothing will ever change. My life will always be like this. I missed my chance. It is too late for me. But the believer should never think this way because Allah can change your story overnight. A single moment can transform your entire life. One sincere dua can open doors you never imagined. One opportunity can change years of struggle. One conversation can heal a broken heart. One decree from Allah can completely shift your future. And this is why hope is such an important part of faith. As long as Allah exists, and He always will, there is always hope. Human beings see limitations. Allah creates possibilities where none seem to exist. When people say impossible, Allah says be, and it becomes think about how quickly Allah changes situations. A person can sleep in sadness and wake up to unexpected relief. A person can spend years feeling lost and suddenly find guidance. A person can struggle financially for years. Then Allah opens doors from places they never expected. Nothing is difficult for Allah. The problem is that human beings judge life based on what they currently see. If the door stays closed too long, they assume it will never open. If the hardship continues, they assume relief will never come. If healing takes time, they assume their heart will always remain broken. But Allah's power is beyond human understanding. Your current reality is not the final chapter of your story, and perhaps what Allah has written for you is greater than anything you lost. Sometimes Allah delays blessings because the version of you today is not yet ready for what you are asking for. So while you are waiting, Allah is preparing your heart, strengthening your faith, purifying your intentions, teaching you patience. And then, when the timing is perfect, Allah opens doors in ways that leave you speechless. How many times have people thought their life was over, only for Allah to completely transform their situation later? This is why believers never lose hope, not because life is easy, but because Allah is capable of changing anything at any moment. Even the impossible becomes possible through His mercy. And perhaps the greatest danger is not hardship itself. The greatest danger is losing hope in Allah during hardship. Shaitan wants you to believe your future is hopeless. He wants you to think your mistakes are too big, your pain is too deep, your prayers are pointless. But Allah's mercy is greater than all of it. No sin is too great for His forgiveness. No broken heart is too damaged for His healing. No life is too ruined for His mercy. Allah specializes in restoring what people think is beyond repair. That is why you must never give up on yourself. The world may underestimate you, people may leave you, opportunities may disappear, but Allah can create new beginnings from complete darkness. Sometimes all it takes is one sincere moment between you and Allah. One honest dew in the middle of the night, one tear of repentance, one act of patience during hardship. And suddenly things begin changing, not always instantly, not always the way you expected, but Allah begins moving things in your favor quietly, beautifully, perfectly. The believer understands that delays are not denials. Just because you cannot see Allah working does not mean He stopped working. Allah is arranging things behind the scenes even now. Perhaps your future is already carrying answers to prayers you cried over months ago. So never allow temporary pain to make permanent conclusions about your life. Your current struggle is only one part of your story, not the entire story. Allah can bring peace after years of anxiety. He can bring love after loneliness. He can bring success after failure. He can bring light after the darkest nights, and often He does it when you least expect it. So keep making dua, keep trusting Allah, keep believing in His mercy even when life feels heavy, because your story can change at any moment. And Allah is able to give you a future far more beautiful than anything you lost.